Good evening, Hawks fans. Welcome to Talking Hawks, where we connect Hawthorn fans from all around the world. I'm Lauren, and tonight Tim and myself will be discussing the highs and the lows of the Intraclub match played at Bunjil this morning. Make sure to leave any comments or questions in the chat, and we'll get to those as soon as possible. While we're waiting for everyone to come in, don't forget to click like and subscribe so you don't miss any exciting content we have coming to you before the start of the season, which is coming up very quickly. Now, just to get this out of the way, I'm sure most of you have seen on social media that there was a bit of a barrage of unfortunate news coming out of the club today, where we first announced Dylan Moore, who has glandular fever and is in doubt for round one. We hope he can recover as quickly as possible and we can see him out there in round one or round two. Then we had CJ and Blank unfortunately go down in the Intraclub this morning, with the club confirming CJ is out for about 8 weeks with a hamstring injury. And the worst of all was confirmed by the club this morning that Blank has done his ACL and will be out for 12 months. Really horrible news when they were both travelling so well this season. We wish all those boys the best in their recovery, and we hope that they can get on the park as soon as possible. But thankfully, it was not all negative. There were plenty of positives to take away from our four-quarter hit-out this morning. Who were some of your standouts, Tim?
Yeah, so the first standout I really would like to talk about is Max Ramsden. So Ramsden around the park, we know he's an aerobic freak. We know that when it comes to his running ability, he's able to run 2 kilometres in less than 6 minutes. But during the third quarter today, Max Ramsden kicked 3. He took 2 beautiful marks and he led out of that forward line really, really well. He did so well that at the end of the third quarter, he was moved from the blue team, which was sort of a second team, into the gold team, which was primarily the starting side, or what we can expect to see later on in round one or towards round one. And Max Ramsden, I just thought, absolutely took the game by the scruff of the neck. We've been looking at who could possibly take that David Hale type role, and obviously Marby Charles come in. But I absolutely loved the way that Max Ramsden went about it today. So Max Ramsden was one of the ones that really stood out for me. The second one that stood out for me was Henry Huswaite.
Yep.
We've got this guy picked up at pick 37. He's got incredibly skillful hands. Him and Frenchie, so Cam McKenzie, were both in the gold team to start off with, and it looked like they were both vying for one spot.
For sure.
In the A team or the preferred side come towards round one. And in the second half of the Intraclub today, Henry Huswaite had 8. I say 8 centre clearances.
Wow.
It was absolutely phenomenal. And he was going up against the Jai Newcombs, the Warples, the Nashes. So this kid is going to be absolutely fantastic. And the highlight from Huss, while he did have those 8 centre clearances, had to have been during the first quarter of the Intraclub, where he got the ball about 50 metres out. He spun through a tackle. He hovered, as we like to say, because it's not a running style. He doesn't sprint. He hovers across the ground to 45 metres and then off his left boot, put it straight through. So Huss was one of the other ones that I absolutely loved watching. And the third one is Massimo D'Ambrosio, who's come into the club. There's been some big raps on him in terms of his disposal, in terms of his kicking ability, and he was absolutely fantastic. He racked up about 16 touches in the first half of the Intraclub game, playing between the wing and also off half-back, and watching skillful ball users like himself and Carl Amon coming out of the back line. Absolutely love seeing. So really love to see what the precisionist from Point Cook, Massimo D'Ambrosio, was able to do today.
Yeah, for sure. Those guys definitely was absolute standouts. I can't believe Huswaite had that 8 clearances. That's centre clearances even. I knew he was good, but I didn't realise he was that good. So, yeah, I definitely think it's a battle for that spot in Will Day's position if he's out for the first couple of weeks. We did, as you said, we did see Cam McKenzie in that A's side. So whether we see him in round one, not sure, but it'll be definitely an interesting battle to watch over the next few practice matches. But one of my standouts, and all of my standouts, are from the forward line today, because it was just like the forward line worked so well together, and I can't wait to see how it all comes together when we play a side that is not us. So against the Doggies next week, I'll be really excited to see how it goes. But Watson, for sure, a standout. I mean, he seems to move so well and finds a way out of the pack with the ball in the forward line. Slotted a few goals, and I think he'll be one of our greatest assets when one of the tools, Lewis or Chol brings the ball to the ground. I think he's looking like he'll be an absolute nightmare for the opposition teams. And if round one was tomorrow, in my opinion, I think he's a lock. I think he's just got to be with all the skill that he has, and I can't believe he's showing all of that after his first preseason. But the two others that I thought really stood out in the forward line was Chol and Dimmer Hardwick. I mean, they worked really well as a whole conglomerate, but Chol was playing that high half forward role and was like, his agility definitely impressed. He was chasing down blokes. He was doing hit outs in the ruck, which was really good. And I think Hardwick is another one who, now that if Moore is missing one or two of the games when the season starts, I think Dimmer will spend a lot of time down that forward line. And I think, he'll be another nightmare for opposition teams because not only can he kick goals, but he can take a mark, he can handball, he can everything. So I think those guys work really well down there. But I think overall it's really good to see a mixture of those young guys and the more experienced guys in players in contention for best on ground. I also love watching the Box Hill boys get in and amongst it today. There's a lot to look forward to for our VFL team this year. Now, we've had a few people in the chat talk about Ethan Phillips, who's one of the guys who is on Box Hill's list. He came from Port Melbourne at the end of last year, 198 centimetres and 24 years old. He is looking pretty ready to me and could come in as in the SSP period that closes on Monday to potentially cover for blank as the season goes along. Who are the other Box Hill boys that stood out to you?
Yeah, so look, Ethan Phillips obviously was quite good today, which was really lovely to see. He had trained with the Hawks before Christmas when there was still a possibility that we might have had a list spot available. And watching him today, there was times where he was on Max Ramsden, he kept him quiet. There was times where he was on Mitch Lewis and kept him quiet as well. So I think he certainly acquitted himself quite well in terms of up against AFL quality players. We also had Max Hall, who was looking quite lively. So Max Hall is a small forward for Box Hill. He looked really good. Unfortunately, he went off with a head knock halfway through the third. So we're just waiting to see now whether or not there is any concussion symptoms. So it was a bit of a shame for that. And then we saw Jed Rule, who kicked 4 goals for Box Hill in his debut in round 1 last year. He kicked a goal today as well. So there was quite a few of the Box Hill boys who were there. It was 12 in total, which was lovely to see. Really great to see that our VFL alignment is working so well with the AFL alignment. So it was great to see all those boys. And just in terms of Dylan Moore, because you were talking about it, I had a chance to chat with Maury after training, and he reckons that for him at the moment, he's feeling it from shoulders down. He feels great. It's just all up here at the moment. But he said he's hopeful that he'll be able to start doing some running at the end of next week.
Yeah, that's some good news that we desperately needed today. So hopefully he can feel a bit better in the next few days. I know glandular fever is one of those ones that can heal pretty quickly and not have too much effect after, but sometimes it can be pretty tricky to get over all of those symptoms. But yeah, so hopefully we get more and more guys getting a bit fitter or a bit less injured over the next few weeks, and we hear lots of good news coming out of the clubs because it has been a bit of an onslaught of maybe not the most positive stuff today. But we did see a few teams. So we started off the Intraclub with pretty much a mix of teams, definitely a mix in the midfield, more of a experienced forwards against playing against experienced backline. But I think by the end of it, we saw the gold side, which seemed to be our A's team. Who were some of your notable inclusions in that A's side?
Yeah, so it was fascinating watching. So the first half of the Intraclub where you had the best forwards against their best backs was something that they'd been doing throughout match simulation during the preseason, which was great to watch. But having a look and seeing Jack Gunston out there. So Gunners is one who hasn't done much of the match simulation, and seeing his skill when he was out there, he kicked a beautiful goal where he was able to picked the ball up, running at pace, able to snap around the corner, which was, vintage Jack Gunston. He looked fantastic out there. Another one who actually really looks really good, and he's one that polarises Hawthorn supporters, and it was actually Sam Frost. So Frosty today, whenever he got the ball, the mentality was he was looking for a handball to players who are running past. And if we have a back line where we've got the likes of Carl Amon, we've got Jarman Impey, we've got Massimo D'Ambrosio, we've got Jack Scrimshaw, we've got these fantastic ball users, it means we're actually able to use them. I forgot to include James Sicily, who we know is an absolutely amazing disposer of the ball, even though there was one he had today that I'm sure he'd love to take back, where he tried to kick across field and hit Jack Ginnivan, and Ginnivan raced into an open goal and dribbled it through. But Frosty today, in terms of his ability to defend, there was times where he was defending as a key. There was times where he was defending as that Blake Hardwick type, so playing on those small, elusive forwards. And I actually think Frosty did quite well. And I can see in the chat someone was talking about key defenders and how many key defenders do we have in our side. Well, we've got Sam Frost who was able to do it. We had Jack Scrimshaw, who we know is able to do it. And then unfortunately, after Blanky went down, we saw Jai Sarong go on to the gold team, or what we would consider to be the A team, or the probable team. And he was able to go in there and acquit himself as well. So there's definitely some key defensive stock that we have there. Whether or not we're able to add Ethan Phillips before close of business on Monday, we'll possibly add another one to that list. But I don't think it's as much doom and gloom as supporters are thinking at this present time.
No, exactly. And I think over the next couple of days, we'll, it'll settle in and we'll realise that we're going to be all right. We've got guys in the wings waiting to come through and help out and fill those positions. And yeah, it'd definitely be a bonus if we take Ethan Phillips in the SSP. So I wonder if that's what they're going to look into. I think that will be news we hear over the next few days. But one of the notable exclusions, I would say, from the A side was McGuinness. A lot of us, including me, thought he was probably going to play round one or going to be in the A side at the moment. My only theory was that maybe he is wanting to play against Warple and Newcombe and Mackenzie instead of playing with them, so he can play against some of those best midfielders. What was your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it was really interesting. Obviously, seeing Finn, he was in the blue team the whole way through. So at that halftime stage where they swapped, he didn't swap, which was quite fascinating to watch. And he was going head-to-head with Warple at stage. He was going head-to-head with Jai Newcombe as well. And it was really interesting because you were watching other players blocking for Jai to be able to give him a couple of steps to be able to get away from Finn. And it's going to be a really interesting watch. We know when we come up against Essendon, they've got the likes of Merritt, who's a great ball winner and incredible in terms of the way he's able to set up their play. So, if we're looking at playing someone who's able to stop Merritt from being able to get the ball and being able to set up attacking forays, then we know Finn is definitely the man. But, yeah, it was really interesting watching today to see whether or not he was able to get on top. And I think out of the times he was up against Warple and Newcombe, I think both Warple and Newcombe had his measure, which was quite interesting.
Yeah. For sure. I think another part of that midfield area that we haven't touched on much is the ruckman. We saw every ruckman on our list besides Clay Tucker out there today. So we got a good look at all of those guys. I think Reeves, as he has been for the past year or so, was a pretty decent standout. He was a lot of whatever really side he was on, they were going pretty well in the clearances. But I also didn't mind the look of Chol in the ruck at periods, and Ramsden, as you said before, his ability to be so strong as a forward in such a short amount of time, and that improvement that we've seen, but also still go well and hold his own in the ruck was impressive. What did you think of the rucks?
Yeah, so in terms of the rucks, it's fascinating because obviously last year it was Lloyd Meek up against Ned Reeves, and we weren't sure how it was going to go. And towards the end of the season, we were able to see that Noodle had taken that number one ruck spot. And then watching today, I think David Hale said it in the press conference, which happened after the Intraclub, and he was asked the question in terms of, is there a possibility where we might ever see two rucks playing alongside Mitch Lewis and Mabior Chol? And he was talking about if that was to happen, they'd have to have that forward craft. And I think if you were comparing Lloyd Meek with Max Ramsden certainly has that forward craft down pat compared to Lloyd Meek. So I think if you're looking
Mhm.
at playing two rucks, you're probably going to see Noodle and Ramsden. And I think if something was to happen to Noodle and he was unavailable to play, probably a better chance of seeing Lloyd Meek playing as that sole ruckman rather than being that ruck forward. So I think in
Yeah.
terms of that, it was a really interesting watch. And I think seeing how far Max Ramsden has come in the last 12 months, just in terms of his sheer size, his confidence, his belief in himself, certainly a testament to what Hawthorn's been able to do with their development coaches.
Yeah, he's come on a lot. I've been really impressed by that. So just seeing him start as a skinny kid in the mid-season draft at Box Hill to really quite filling out this year and making an impression on the side and kicking some goals. It was really good to see. And I thought that Meek did struggle a little bit today. Still, one of my concerns with him is that he's so big, he's so large and in charge, but he just struggles a little bit to use his mass and his body weight to maneuver the play, help him get into the right position. So hopefully they'll continue working with him on that this year. And we'll see him at Box Hill, I'm sure, for a little bit, and we'll see how that goes. And I think, yeah, he is a great replacement to have in the wings, although. We've got Tom here talking about DGB. So he finished last year playing as a forward, but I think for all intents and purposes, he's a defender, and I think that's where he's staying for the rest of his career. What did you think about DGB's game today?
Yeah, so DJB went off in the second quarter and he got his ankle restrapped. So post-Christmas when they came back, he appeared to roll his ankle. And it's been something that appears to have been niggling him throughout a lot of the training sessions and appeared to niggle him again today. So unfortunately for DJB, he had a bit of time off the park to get it restrapped. But when he came back on, he was serviceable down back. But when Blank went down, they looked for a replacement, and Jai Sarong was the next one who got brought over. So I think if we're looking at a pecking line or a pecking order in terms of that, I think we probably have Jai Sarong ahead of where DGB is currently at the moment. It's not through a lack of trying from Denver. We know he's certainly trying. We know he's certainly putting it in. But yeah, at the moment, he was unfortunately unable to really stamp his authority on the game.
Yeah, I think it's going to be another year of learning, trying hard for DGB and getting that training from Cade Simpson down back there. And it'll be interesting to see how many games he gets into him by the end of the year. I mean, I've always said that he should never be playing as a fullback, but he should be playing the Sicily role. But unfortunately, we have the best guy in the world playing the Sicily role. So it's unfortunate that we do kind of have to maneuver him to more of that key back role, which I don't know will show. I don't know if that will show off all of his strengths. So we'll see how this year goes. Once again, I did struggle with some of the stuff I'd seen from DGB last year, but from this preseason, I actually have seen a decent improvement in that kicking efficiency, body positioning, even just like basic handballing, like looked like it was improving. And I know he's definitely had a really tough preseason, as is everyone, really putting in all their effort. And I think it's good to see those minor little skills improving because every little bit counts for sure. Oh, we've got another question from Brooke here about our recruits in Massimo and Ginnivan. So we did touch on Massimo before, who did some great work on the wing, like really, really impressive. I think, I'm thinking he'll be in round one, but let's not look too far ahead. What about Ginnivan? How did you see his game today?
Yeah, look, we didn't see any of the supposed ducks, which we used to see when we play against Collingwood, which was wonderful.
No.
But I loved the endeavour from Jack Ginnivan today. Whether it was chasing an opponent, whether it was trying to harass, put pressure on. These are some of the things that have been knocks from supporters in terms of what he's able to do. So I actually thought he looked really lively today, which was wonderful. He's got a really great combination with the Wizard Watson already. And you think about it, they've only been together for such a short amount of time. But if we can keep those two on the park and have Luke Bruce helping to direct, to guide them as these small forwards, it's certainly going to be wonderful. And then just to go back in terms of Massimo, because I saw another question, which was about where did he play. So Massimo started on the wing. So he was in the starting team on the wing, which was wonderful. And then he had moments where he would move down back as well. So
Mhm.
I think we're going to see some rotation throughout. We've got a lot of versatility. So it meant if
Yeah.
Carl Amon or Jarman Impey came to the bench, Massimo would push from the wing further back. And then you might have someone like Harry Morrison or Josh Ward popping up onto a wing. But I think watching the way that we see Massimo using the ball, Sam loves those ball users. And whether it's him, whether it's Carl Amon, Jarman Impey, Jack Scrimshaw from that back half, I think as supporters, we're going to absolutely love watching what these players are able to do because they can, pick those pinpoint passes, find a
Hmm.
small gap, which then enables the likes of the Josh Weddles to get on their bike and
Yes.
turn, huge amounts of space into scoring opportunities.
Yeah, another small forward we are being questioned about by Shane was Butler. I thought he looked well today, but I think, it's just tricky when we've got so many amazing small forwards there that he is just unfortunately fallen a little bit back in that line, even though he has improved immensely over this preseason. What was your
Yeah.
thoughts on his game?
Yeah, look, Butsy's had a tremendous preseason. We know it's the first real preseason he's had at the club. He came in injured last year, unfortunately, was injured during the preseason. So this is his first real preseason he's had, and he's certainly making every post a winner. Today, he had some moments where he looked lively as that small
Mhm.
forward. He then popped up onto a wing as well. But I think when you're comparing his game to the likes of Nick Watson today, Jack Ginnivan, Luke Bruce, Blake Hardwick, unfortunately, he wasn't able to shine probably as much as Butsy would love to have been able to.
Yeah, I think he also had some time in the midfield, didn't he, as well, for the Blues team or the seconds side?
Yes, yeah. So he had some time, and we know that's where he actually played his trade as an under
Mm-hmm.
18. He was a midfielder before we tried to turn his skills and his advantages and strengths into that small forward role.
Just quickly, another small forward has been brought up in the chat. That is Josh Bennett. How's he looked at as, again, another example as one of the guys who has unfortunately just fallen back in the line since our recruits over the off season? I think I didn't honestly see too much of him today. I saw a few moments, but I don't know how much of the ball he got today.
Yeah, so JB sort of was in and out of the game. He faded as the game sort of went on, which is understandable for a young guy. We got him last year as a Category B rookie. So it was interesting today watching him. He certainly got wheels. That's something we know about JB. He's got wheels. He certainly doesn't mind a contest at all. But yeah, when you're comparing him to the likes of the Bruce and the Ginnivans and the Watsons and the Hardwicks, there is, quite a line of players we have. And JB got an opportunity today, which is great. Jack O'Sullivan, another one of the small forwards, he didn't play today. We had a fair few who were sitting out. So O'Sullivan was one. We also had Cooper Stevens and Will McCabe who were sitting out. Both of them with some little niggles that they're managing at the moment. Cal Shadir did some running beforehand. So we had a few first listed players or senior listed players who weren't available for today. But yeah, it was interesting watching JB. Hopefully, as the season goes on, he gets a bit more consistency at Box Hill. He'll be able to put his hand up and try and get that debut game before the end of season 2024.
Yeah, and I think he'll be a really great asset to that Box Hill side over this year. I think, even though with, Hawthorn going to go great, are they going to make finals? Well, we're not too sure. Probably, likely not. But I think with Box Hill, if you want to see some footy, some male AFL getting done, I think you go see Box Hill. I think we need more people at those games because those guys, they were in finals last year, just unfortunately fell short. But I think you've got to get around them because there's going to be some success in the gold and brown for Box Hill this year. So hopefully everyone can get down to a few of those games this year. I think we've got another question up here, and I can't believe it's taken us this long to bring him up. But CMAC, he was another one that impressed. I think all the media I've seen today has been also talking about how CMAC had a really good game. I think it started a little quiet, but as he moved into the A side or in that second half, he really showed his skill.
Yeah, Croc certainly had a very good game today. He had some opportunities in the midfield as well, which is wonderful. David Hale did speak about that post Intraclub that, Croc has been putting his hand up and wanting to get more of that midfield time where he played as an under 18, but he looked incredibly lively. That half forward role is very difficult to play. At times you'll see half forwards sort of go in and out of the game. But look, I was really impressed by what we've seen. We know he's got tremendous leadership, and he's certainly put his hand up to be one of those breakout players for this year.
Yeah, for sure. I think hopefully he gets some more midfield minutes. I know a lot of the Hawthorn fans would like to see that, me included. So hopefully with a few of those guys being out like Will Day, he may get a little bit more time in there. I think that will just bring up his game to a whole nother level. I'm really excited to see how he goes this year. So we've just got another question. So we talked about this at the start of the live stream. So Day's spot, I think personally, it is going to go to Mackenzie in round 1. What was your thoughts?
Yeah, so in terms of what we saw, I think Frenchie at the moment has put his hand up, but that's not to say that Huss certainly wasn't trying. As we said, he kicked a wonderful goal, had all those centre clearances, but Frenchie has put on some size. He's built his fitness as well. And I saw a comment earlier from Brooke who was asking in terms of Frenchie, has he seemed to have taken the next step? And the answer is yes. It was a beautiful tap down from Ned Reeves to the front of a centre clearance where Cam Mackenzie's little sidestep and away he went and was able to use that beautiful right foot kick that we know he has. Obviously, the disposal's wonderful and it's been wonderful since he came in. That was one of the hallmarks he had, but yeah, he has certainly put his hand up to lay claim to that spot that Will Day's left behind through his injury. And it's going to be fascinating to watch. Next week, we've got the match simulation against the Western Bulldogs, where I think there's 30 Hawthorn listed players who will be eligible. Based on our injury list at the moment, that means we're probably going to see a fair few of those senior listed players playing. And then we know the following week we do take on the Western Bulldogs again, but this time in an actual match. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not we can see Cam Mackenzie or Henry Hustwaite put their hand up and really say, actually, you know what, Daisy spot, that's mine.
Yeah, for sure. Question from Cameron talking about Ward. I enjoyed his game today. I thought he was a little bit quiet, maybe overshined by the likes of Mackenzie and the Warples and the Newcombs, etc. But I thought he had a pretty respectable hit out today.
Yeah, look, Josh Ward is the epitome of consistency. You know exactly what you're going to get from Wardy. So he was assured with the ball in hand, which was absolutely fantastic. He was able to use his skills on the wing. He was able to use his great running capacity as well. And one of the things I love about Josh Ward is his two-way running. I love the way that he gets back and helps out in defence. So that's something that is always wonderful to see. It's always great to see midfielders getting back and helping the defence because we know that teams play a team defence. We can sit there and bag defenders, but it's a team game. You need the team to be helping out with that. So, look, he did start off quiet, but I think by the end of it, it was just a typical Josh Ward game with that consistency.
Yeah. Speaking of the midfield, I think it was interesting to me the fact that A's midfield, that starting centre clearance group was Reeves, Mackenzie, Warple and Newcomb. Thought it was interesting that Nash was often placed on the wing in that second half, which we'd seen him occasionally there before, but I thought, it was interesting. He spent quite a bit of time on that wing or even on the bench by the second half. So I thought it was interesting that they had Mackenzie in there over Nash.
Yeah, I think if you go back and watch a lot of the games from last year, Nash actually started on the bench and he'd come on, and it would be whether or not he'd be coming on as a tagger if there was someone in that midfield that needed to be quelled, or what. One of the things I loved from watching Nashy today, the little tap-ons. He's using his 197 centimetre height. Ned would tap the ball down and it would bounce, and if it bounced high at an angle, all of a sudden you see Nashy with this little deft tap to either a Warple or a Newcomb or a Hustwaite or a Mackenzie to try and get them into space. And I just love seeing that because once again, you can see some of those footy smarts starting to come into Nashy, and he's using those skills that he has from rugby in terms of that
Yeah.
tight contest to be able to do it. So really loved seeing him do that today. And I think that's something that, once again, is adding another bow to his string in that midfield.
Yeah, I think he's definitely added a little bit of composure into his game, which we didn't see as much compared to this time last year. So it was good to see that he has kind of settled into playing in the midfield a lot more than he did at this time last year. And I think, yeah, it'll be exciting to see how he continues to improve, since he improved so much in such a short amount of time. I feel as with that height and that size, I think the sky's the limit for Nash. Got another question about Josh Weddle. I mean, he's just doing Josh Weddle things. He's running around, breaking out of packs, everything you'd want to see from Weddle. The only little thing that I had with his game today was his kicking was a little bit off, but there was a few rusty kicks out there, so you can't go too hard on him. What did you think?
Yeah, I think with Weddle, one of the things that we'd love to see him doing as the season goes on is probably taking 2 or 3 less steps. Because there was some times where he put himself into a bit of trouble, and then when he tried to dispose of the ball, he wasn't able to get rid of it as well as he wanted to. It was quite interesting when the game started. He actually started on the bench, so he was in the blue team at the beginning. So as we know, the blue team at the very beginning were the better defenders, and then we had the probable attackers on the gold team. And Wed started on the bench, which was really interesting seeing that, whether or not that was just to help try and quell nerves or whatever it was. But look, when he came on, there was a beautiful play that he had where he took off from the back line, took off from the back 50, got a handball, and he went straight through the middle. And you went, whoa, this is fantastic. He ran himself into trouble, but I think we're going to enjoy watching him doing that on the MCG.
Yeah, so we'll just touch quickly on Bailey McDonald. Not sure if everyone heard, but no, he did not play today. He has a bone stress in his leg. Is that right, Tim?
Yeah, so he's got bone stress, which is similar to what Josh Ward had last year. Josh Ward had it in his foot. So Bailey McDonald has that in his leg. So at the moment, it's about sort of deloading, allowing the bone just to sort of settle down, and then he'll be able to go from there. So I believe he's about another 4 or 5 weeks away from being available to be picked. And he was one of those who wasn't available for today. And I saw a comment above too who was asking about Scrimshaw. So Scrimshaw was playing as a key defender at times, so playing as that centre half back, which is really interesting because he certainly got the height, he certainly got the marking capability, and I don't think there's too many sides in the AFL who've got 2 really big gorilla key forwards, which means you can play Jack Scrimshaw as that centre half back and use his elite kicking as well from there, which will be wonderful. But talking to him post the Intraclub, he was talking about how he's actually pretty disappointed in the third quarter because he was matching up on Max Ramsden when Rama kicked those 3 goals. So he wanted to make sure that fourth quarter that he was able to sort of get back on task, get back on track, and make sure it didn't happen. He said he gave Rama a bit too much leeway. So it was really interesting hearing him say that, because we've heard that the players are driving the standards. We've heard that the players are really driving where they want their games to go as individuals and also as a team. So hearing him sort of being hard on himself in an intra-club match, I think bodes well for, people who think that, whether or not Scrimshaw is going to be in our best 22 or 23.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Scrimshaw, and I've liked what I've seen over this preseason as a whole. And I think he'll work really well as that kind of second, third tall back there. And I think it'll really help also let Sicily loose, which we know is when Sicily's loose, he'll be playing at his best. I think we will wrap it up very shortly, but I think we should leave it on one of my favorite players, which is Gunston. It was great. So great seeing him out there today. I think he kicked a few goals, did he, or just the one?
No, he kicked a couple of goals today, but he looks very lively. The way he's able to set up other players, that's the big thing. We get Jack Gunston back, and he's certainly got that great footy IQ. We know what he's able to do. He brings other players into the game, and I think I'm still not convinced we're going to see him play 23 games this season. I think we'll see him sort of in and out. But I think the one thing that was really interesting is both Punky and Gunners, halfway through that third quarter, they had the senior citizen tax which was where they were allowed
Yeah.
to put the joggers on and go for a couple of laps around the oval rather than having
Mm-hmm.
to go through and to battle it out against other teammates. So it was really interesting seeing that happen. But you can tell both of them are just loving being back on the same park together.
Oh, for sure. And I think even like Bruce in that first half, like he just looked so good. I'm shocked every single time I head down to training. I'm like, how is Bruce getting even better? Like it's unbelievable. So hopefully we get to see a little bit of them next week in the preseason match. If everyone doesn't know, there is a preseason match, an unofficial preseason match on Friday next week against the Doggies. I believe all the info for that is on the Hawks website. But I think that's about it for tonight. Anything else you want to leave us with, Tim?
No, so just next week it's 8 quarters. So the Box Hill
Yes.
team will be playing as well. So I imagine we'll see our probable team probably play 2, maybe 3 quarters, and then we'll see some of those younger guys getting an opportunity. I'll be down there. So if anyone pops down, please make sure to come and say hello. Love to be able to see the Talking Hawks fraternity who follow us incredibly faithfully. And if you haven't already listened, some really good podcasts. We had Kate Simpson come on the other day talking about that backline. And I know I've heard people working out and discussing as to what our best backline is going to be. And it was great listening to Simo being able to talk about some of the players. He waxed lyrical about Jack Scrimshaw, which was wonderful to hear about what he's been able to produce this pre-season. And as we'll talk about what he was able to produce today. So if you haven't already listened to that, highly recommend it.
Yeah, for sure. Those are some really, really good podcasts. And I hopefully over the next few weeks as well, we'll get a little bit more insight from the club. So I think, as I said, that is us for today. Thanks for joining us here tonight and asking some great questions. I saw a few more questions that were sent in just before that we did address at the start of the live. So once this is all over and done in the next couple of minutes, feel free to go back to the start of the live and you'll hear us talking all about it. Make sure to click subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming content we have here on YouTube. You'll find the Talking Hawks podcast on all of your usual podcasting platforms where you'll be able to listen to all the current and future episodes Tim was just discussing. Don't forget to follow Talking Hawks on Facebook, X, and Instagram. There will be plenty more Hawthorn content to come before round 1, so keep engaged. We will chat to you all soon. Once again, go Hawks!